Hi everyone, it's Gary Nicholson here for the Mountain Weather Information Service. This is your planning outlook updated on Boxing Day, 26th of December. Hope the festive season has been good to you so far. It's looking a rather mild picture, it must be said, on the mountains through this weekend. Not great news if you're looking for proper winter weather. A lot of snow across the Highlands will be reducing considerably as these temperatures lift with some wind and some rain. Temperatures, though, fluctuating with some colder patterns around just through the new year. Mostly coming in off the Atlantic though, so I don't think we're genuinely getting into a widespread deep freeze anytime soon. Let's have a look through temperatures. This is the 850 millibar level. Now with higher pressure in charge, that level will be slightly higher, so the temperatures shown here will be just above the summits, and already at this level we're well above freezing. So temperatures through this weekend distinctly mild across all of the hills and the mountains. No great shock with the airflow coming up from the south and southwest. So this is running on through the weekend, no great change to that general prevailing pattern. As we go through into Monday, something of a cold front is likely to move in from the northwest, so temperatures and freezing levels will tend to lower back onto the hills across Scotland. It might stay generally just above freezing though for England and Wales. This is through into New Year's Eve, and again temperatures probably just above freezing on most of the mountains. Local inversions with maybe a touch of frost in some of the valleys, but not desperately cold. New Year's Day looks as though it's on the milder side as a general west or southwesterly is in. Just a hint of some chillier patterns coming back in the later part of next week as the airflow turns more west by northwesterly with time. Let's take through the synoptic charts then, starting off with Friday, and it's a warm sector that extends in from the Atlantic on Friday. A murky, mild, damp day then for most places. None of those words really what you want to hear at this time of year, but it's all with that south-southwesterly airflow, no great surprise. A lot of low cloud, drizzly rain, some more persistent, heavier falls maybe at times across the Highlands, mainly towards the west, with that front wriggling in through the day on Friday, and will be in place through into the weekend as well. Strongest winds across Scotland, up to gale force across many of the mountains, locally very gusty just to the north of major summits. It'll be a similar story into the weekend because it's a stable southwesterly. The air is then forced over the mountains, squeezed through some of the passes into some of the corries and the cols, so locally very gusty and generally turbulent conditions across the higher mountains. Powerful gusts in places, difficulty with walking then on most higher terrain. Heaviest of the rain is across the western side of Scotland, focused on the west and northwest Highlands, persistent much of the day here. Patchier the further east you go across Scotland, and very little of it across most of England and Wales. Still though, with that airflow from the southwest, a lot of dampness, a lot of low cloud covering most of the hills and mountains. Best of any breaks towards more eastern regions. Temperatures then very mild. Not a great deal of change into Sunday, still mild temperatures, but a very windy day. Severe gales across most of the mountain tops then, again some very powerful gusts. Most mountains then seeing the gales, Scotland the strongest of the winds. Very difficult conditions then on higher terrain for the day on Sunday. We've got a front which lies towards the northwest. Some uncertainty exactly where this is located. That will dictate who sees the heaviest and most prolonged of the rain. Northwest Highlands particularly, but it may be if that front is a bit further in, then more generally across the Highlands sees heavy rain. Always focused across the western side with lower rainfall totals, spots in the wind across the eastern side of the Highlands. Very little rain for England and Wales, again spits and spots maybe just in places, but a lot of low cloud still being dragged around off the Atlantic. With the high pressure nearby though, chance of some local inversions, so it may be some high tops, particularly across Wales, do just get above the banks of low cloud. Now Monday is quite complicated. This chart may be overcomplicating it, it must be said. It's trying to develop a little area of low pressure over the Atlantic. It might be much more straightforward and a cold front is just moving in and moving through. But if it is slower, then we might need to just see how things develop slightly differently. I suspect the day will be a story of some heavy rain moving gradually southeastwards. It may be that it's just a generally mild, murky day once again with blustery winds, but just watch for some rain spreading a bit further south with time towards the lakes and maybe even Wales. Don't assume this chart will look exactly like this though by the time we get there. Still, some uncertainty into Tuesday, New Year's Eve. What's left of Monday's system most likely pulling away eastwards, a ridge of high pressure building up from the south and southwest. Lighter winds on the whole for most places looking likely. Could still be a bit gusty though toward north and northeast Scotland. A fairly optimistic day. The legacy of low cloud may be a problem for some, and some fog at low levels. Some inversion conditions would be expected at this stage for New Year's Eve, so it might give some very good conditions on the higher terrain. At the very least, just looking a bit more optimistic compared to the weekend. Temperatures are still relatively mild though. Stepping back to look at the big picture through the New Year period, then this is the high that's in on New Year's Eve, extensive across most of Western Europe at this stage. But it looks as though it gets kicked out of the way once again as a strengthening southwesterly comes in. So into New Year's Day, it may well be back to square one for gale force winds and some further rain coming in off the Atlantic. We just need to watch the timing of that, but things look as though they go downhill once again. Subtle changes then in the days that follow. It looks as though we just tap into a more northwesterly origin of air, so a more polar maritime air mass, one that will bring showery conditions at times of some snow and some hail, with chillier air just coming in at least to Scotland. Relatively mild still, I suspect, for England and Wales, so no great drop of temperature, maybe just a bit chillier at least compared to the weekend upcoming. But overall, onwards into the first week or so of January, it seems as though we're into a relatively zonal pattern, in other words, quite a westerly orientated airflow, with temperatures up and down, only really sub-zero across the higher mountains most of the time. A little bit of freeze and thaw occasionally, but no great signal of anything properly cold just coming back for the time being. It may be that England and Wales are relatively dry, whereas Scotland, particularly toward the west and northwest, see rain or showers that bit more frequently. So it doesn't look like there's any real deep winter conditions coming back for the time being. There's one or two better days in there. New Year's Eve is one worth considering at this stage for being one of the better ones, but some other days looking very turbulent indeed across the mountains. Stay up to date with your local forecast then, updated daily on our website, and I'll have the next video online for you over the weekend. Thanks for watching today. Bye for now.